Politics and Perspective with Chrys Johnson. Palpable. Paradox. Polarity. PG. Paranoia. People pleaser. Peaceful. Powerful. Pizzazz.
Alex, thank you for joining us on the Players Pick podcast reboot. This is episode number 123. It's been like almost 2 years since the last episode. A lot of life has happened for me, and I know a lot of life has happened out there for all the players, including yourself. So I want to jump right in and ask you a few questions. I want to start right at your relationship with Kyle. Like, you guys have known each other since middle school and have had a long friendship that clearly feeds into Doppelganger's music. So I'd just like to know about like how everything came about. Start us at the beginning.
Yeah, dude. Well, thanks for having me on. I love your podcast. Like, I've been watching this for a couple years now, and it's always super fun to see who you're talking to. Yeah, so Kyle Delvo, he and I have known each other since like middle school, and we're both in our 30s now. We're both 30. And so it's been quite a long time. We started playing music together when we were learning how to play our instruments. We just decided we were going to do the talent show in middle school together one day. Learned how to play The Trooper by Iron Maiden together, performed it, went well. It was just us two, just standing on stage with our guitar and bass, no drums, no singer, nothing, no tracks. It was just kind of silly. But yeah, it works really well. Like, he's a great guy. Ended up, he also plays piano. So eventually, after a couple of years of just us jamming, just doing covers and stuff, we started writing our own music and just kind of recorded it. You know, didn't perform live or anything while we were in high school or anything. But then once we graduated high school, we got together with his older brother who had just come back from the Marines, and then we got together with him on vocals. Actually, a couple other people locally got an actual band together and started playing shows. And then that turned into Doppelganger, and then some years went by, and then it just became an instrumental project, kind of glazing over a lot of stuff real quick. But yeah, anyway, so that's what I'm still doing to this day, is playing in Doppelganger with Kyle. He and I are the two members of that band now, and then we have our drummer, who's like our live member, Tim. And he plays shows with us. And yeah, that's what I've got going on currently.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Kyle's a great guy, best friend of mine. So lifelong friend.
Shout out to Kyle.
Yeah, shout out Kyle.
In some of the other interviews that I've witnessed, it sounds like you've described Doppelganger's sound as complex guitar work supplemented with modern elements. How would you define the essence of your music to someone hearing you for the first time?
Yeah, it is very guitar-driven music. I always describe it as it's metal, but it's instrumental, so we don't have a singer or anything like that. It's just guitar, bass, drums, and then synthesizers and keyboards. So guitar kind of takes over the role of like that main kind of center focus instead of the singer. But yeah, if I usually kind of just, it's hard to describe sometimes because not a lot of people know about instrumental music if they're not into metal in general, that's for sure. But yeah, it's, you know, Intervals and Animals as Leaders and Polyphia and all those guys that are doing it real big these days are big influences on me. I've been listening to them for over 10 years now. And let's see here. So instrumental, metal, progressive. It's very much like metalcore, I would say. That's probably one of my favorite genres, but instrumental with a lot of extra lead guitar parts to kind of, like I said, keep that center attention, almost like a vocalist would be. Kind of a
cool. Yeah, you're also taking like influence though from modern electronic stuff, right? It kind of seems like maybe hip hop too. Like your biggest hit maybe is very influenced by kind of more modern ways of tracking, not just metalcore. It seems like.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely big hip hop fan. Kyle and I both. As far as like the production side of things go, he is really big on the electronic work. He does a lot of the extra synthesizer stuff and the extra drum work. And yeah, that's going to be, we grew up in high school from 2009 to 2013. So we listened to a lot of like EDM was big at the time. There was a lot of dubstep going on in circulation at the time, as well as hip hop guys like, well, I mean, actually, I was just listening to like Wiz Khalifa the other day. I'm trying to think of who was big at the time. Kid Cudi, guys like this, Kanye West. I don't know, maybe a little bit of that seeps in, but just kind of the production work. Yeah. I try to show a little bit of influence of everything that I listen to in the music that I write, but it's a little bit, you know what I mean? Like it's like I would say 90% is like metal progressive stuff. And in the new stuff we're working on right now, there's probably a little bit more. I would say it's probably like 70-30. But all the stuff we've released so far does have that kind of little sprinkle of electronic influence in there, like maybe 10% or so, you know? But yeah, we do love.
It seems par for the course when you named the bands that you named. Animals, Leaders, and Intervals both do a similar thing in their own way, right? I mean, that's one of
Yeah.
the things that I think that captured, at least for me, it captured my attention really big with Animals when they came onto the scene. That they weren't afraid of using all the keyboard and prog aspects and jazz qualities as
That
well
too.
intermixed, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I forgot to bring up jazz, but that's something that I kind of try to tie in from time to time as well, because I played in a college jazz band when I went to college for music, so that definitely shows up. That's for sure. All the seventh chords and sharp 11s and all this and that and all the different Lydian modes and whatnot. So that's for
Very
sure.
cool. What school did you go to?
Black Hawk College here in the Quad Cities. That's over in Moline, Illinois.
Was that a good experience?
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, that was the same guy that was the head of the jazz band. He's got a doctorate in jazz studies, and he is also the teacher for music theory and was also the teacher for electronic music. So I got to learn the introduction of how to record music. And yeah, great guy, Dr. Crockett. Fantastic, fantastic instructor. He was able to play the trumpet and play the chords on piano at the same time, and it's just like teaching us how to solo over chord changes by doing it both at the same time. It's
That's
just crazy
wild.
stuff. Yeah. So
And what do you think? I mean, I know there's a lot to learn. Was it was like 2-year program? Is that what it was, or was it a longer?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And did you think what was it that maybe that you learned there that you maybe you weren't previously aware of? What was something that schooling really shone a light on?
Let me think back now because yeah, that was about 10 years ago. I think that I would have started there. And as far as, I mean, I didn't really know much about jazz. I kind of got thrown into that because I just wanted to be in the music program. And I didn't really, metal was like all I'd really listened to, rock and metal coming up to. And then getting thrown into jazz, just understanding like how to improvise as well as how to structure things like that. Like there's different forms for that kind of music. For most metal and pop, there's like a verse, chorus, bridge kind of thing going on. Whereas in jazz, it's a little bit more free form where you have the head of the song, which is like the melody or the chorus. And then you have this whole other format of the rest of the song that you just solo over, and everybody follows like an A, B, A, and then it goes to C, you know what I mean? Like there's a whole different structure, and then it comes back to the head. Jazz on its own, I guess, in general, is something I didn't really know much about before I went to college there.
Yeah.
And then what else? Ear training. Ear training. That is something that I had to, I mean, in music theory at that college, we had to be almost, in order to get to the next like test or the next chapter or whatever, we had to pretty much perfect the first one and get like Ds or above on all of our tests so that we understood the material to move on to the next one. So ear training was a big thing. Being able to identify intervals by ear, that is something that I'm still kind of practicing to this day. But I feel like because I'm able to do that now, I'm able to improvise a little bit better and write music a little bit more efficiently and faster, and also learn music more efficiently and faster and communicate it with other people, just because there's, the more I learned about theory, the more I was able to talk to other people more, like I said, efficiently, that if they understand music theory too, I can just say it's, instead of describing what frets I'm playing and what tuning and all that, I can just say it's I don't know, G sharp major 7, and then we'll just both play that.
Even if it's a slightly different voicing, you have somebody that's in the realm with you at that point, right? Like, and so if I hear G sharp major 7, I'm playing over here, and you go, oh, actually, I really prefer this voicing.
Yeah.
Use
Yeah.
this voicing for my song.
Different
Whatever.
inversions. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. And when you discovered jazz a little bit through that medium of school. Like, was there any artists or particular styles of jazz that kind of like really caught your interest?
Uh, some that in particular were like John Coltrane. I mean, he's huge, obviously. And then Bill Evans, he's a piano player. It's fantastic. Those two are the first two that come to mind.
Anything particular about those artists that drew you in?
Yeah, I think some of them, some of those tunes that they have are some jazz is like super, super out there and it's just hard to kind of grasp. But those guys have the technical ability and have the chops all day. But their sense of melody is a little bit more like tame, and I feel like I could digest it a little bit easier, if that makes sense. But they also, both of those guys get crazy too. Like I mean, John Coltrane has the song Giant Steps. I mean, that's the craziest of all chord progressions known to man. Like that's just so hard to play over that those quick of changes. But yeah, those two artists are probably two of the biggest jazz guys. And funny enough, when I was in college, I got introduced to Kendrick Lamar, which I mean, he's not necessarily like considered a jazz artist, but his album To Pimp a Butterfly came out at that time. Somebody told me it's like rap over jazz, and I'm like, let me check that out. He was right. So he became one of my favorite artists in that time period. You know, I don't know if I would call him a jazz artist, but yeah.
That's really cool. I love that insight too, because that's kind of, in my estimation, when new things are happening, it happens out of taking a reasonable amount of experience or study of something that is already traditional or, contemporary, and then utilizing it or combining it in a way that maybe, at least you haven't heard before, or at least you haven't experienced, right? And
Yeah.
when you hear somebody else come through and they're like, that's wild. I would have never done that. And so, and you hear the jazz element, but it's obviously, predominantly a hip hop thing. Like I love that. Some of my favorite music comes to me that way. And I think that,
Yeah.
you know,
Combining genres, I think, is a super
yes.
smart way to get something new.
On that note, real quick, I will say I had my own little experience. I had listened to jazz before. I was in a 2-year program in north of Seattle back in 2014 to 2016. I'm sorry, 2004 to 2006. Totally skipped a
Okay.
decade there.
Yeah.
But COVID is totally, the whole like shutting. I
Dude, I
just
get it.
where
It
the
might as
time
well have
warp is
been.
real.
Yeah.
But I forget almost like a decade. But it's also just getting older. But one of the cool things is I took some jazz appreciation there, and the teacher there, Steve Kim, he's really cool. And one of the things advice he was giving to us, because he knew a lot of us were not jazzers that were taking this class. We were trying to understand jazz a little bit,
Yeah.
but we were all contemporary, like rock and metal and whatever. And
Yeah.
he was like, look, if you want to be better at your primary genre, if you want to be more interesting in your primary genre, you need to not listen to your primary genre all the time and not
That's
like be too steeped in it, right? So that you can bring in the influence from outside of it and then
absolutely.
allow it to become something else.
And that's pretty much the same thing that was going through my head. I think somebody brought that up at some point when I was in college. Like, yeah, in order to improve on whatever type of music you're playing, like this stuff is going to apply to everything, whether it's learning music theory or learning how to play a different genre. You can apply different aspects of anything to what you like to do. Can't remember. I was going to say something about the different genres. Yeah, so those players I mentioned, John Coltrane and Bill Evans, like they don't even play guitar. Like I just like that. What I ended up doing one time was learning some of the saxophone solo and playing it in jazz band. Like we were doing a John Coltrane song, so I just transcribed like one of his solos and played it on guitar, and that kind of opened up some doors for me because, like I was saying, ear training, learning that solo by ear. I couldn't play it right now because like that was so long ago, but learning that solo by ear was incredibly helpful to sit down and start learning like other songs by ear, just like, metal stuff. I'd never really tried learning by ear because, tabs are so widely available that I was pretty much just doing tabs all throughout like college or high school. And then when I got to college, yeah, I just started trying to get my ear.
And you feel pretty strong with that, you said, with your intervals and the kind of maybe relative pitch kind of
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah. Relative pitch. Definitely don't have perfect pitch.
Did you have any perfect pitch people around you in school?
There's like one or two. Yeah, yeah, pretty cool.
Seems like there
Pretty
always
cool.
is.
Yeah,
And it drives the rest of us nuts, dude. Like at least
right.
I mean, I had this one guy. I mean, absolutely blind. You know, kind of classic situation where he's blind from birth, and just an
Okay.
absolute monster on the piano. Just an absolute monster.
Yeah.
He could hear something at 4 miles away, and like it's an F sharp, you know, and you're like, it's like there's just all these little. He could say one day it tripped us out so hard. I was in a handful of classes with him, and I brought in an acoustic guitar and had a capo on it because my girlfriend at the time was in the same class, and I brought it in. I set it down. She was going to play something as an example, and I set it down, and it like as an acoustic guitar does, it kind of resonates. Like and this guy, he's sitting in the front row, and he's like, acoustic guitar, capo, 3rd fret. And I'm just like it was exact, because
That's insane.
he knew, I mean, it's just the way that you and I look at the color green and we go, oh, it's a shade of green,
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that's,
That's
that's a
that
guitar and 3rd fret. And I know he can name all the, I mean, that's a fairly easy one in the grand scheme of things, but for the rest of us, especially at that point in my, everything, I was like first semester at the college, and I was just like being blown away by other people's talents. And I just like,
Yeah,
okay,
man.
so there's people that can do that. I didn't know that was a thing that you could do.
Yep. That's like I was saying, my professor soloing and playing chords at the same time. I'm just like, I didn't realize like people could get to that level. Like, my God. Yeah, it's scary.
That is. Hey, so tell me about, so I was lucky enough to be in contact with you before your viral success,
Yeah.
because the interest in Kiesel and all the stuff, but like,
Yeah.
your song, I guess, is it a cover? Money So Big then?
That's
Is
a cover. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay. Yeah, and it went huge and brought a lot of attention to the band and everything, right?
Yes.
How did that change your outlook on the band and then your goals moving forward after that?
Yeah. The video did really well. Pretty lucky. It was a cover of a hip hop song. And then after that was like the second video that did really well for us. There was one right before that was actually our original song, I Was God Once, where I was just standing in Guitar Center. I was working there at the time, and I put a little quote that was like, "This is our song," or something like, "My band sounds like this, but I still work at Guitar Center." And that one did really well for us too. So after both of those were like in circulation, both really wanted to, Kyle and I, we're just wanting to step up our content and produce more and more as often as we could. So started putting out more videos more regularly and did more covers, started making more like tabs for all of our stuff available, just trying to take the band a little bit more seriously, I guess, because up to that point we were kind of just, we took it seriously, but we were just playing shows every now and then, not really having any sort of sense of like urgency, I guess, on anything, if that makes sense. Like we were kind of just taking a little bit more casual, and we still do to this day. It's not like that band isn't our day job or anything, but we took it a little bit more seriously and tried to reach out to a couple companies that we had interest in and get some work with them and try to get the name out for the band a little bit farther, and just trying to see how far we can expand this while still being kind of an internet project is kind of the plan until we get a big enough following online, and then we're going to expand out and tour. And last year we went on tour, and so it's slowly but surely, world domination,
Congratulations. I love that.
we're getting there.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that track, I Was God Once. So
Yeah.
what kind of blasphemy is that, dude?
Yeah, I know.
Tell me about that. Does that point at something, or is that just kind of like a cool name to put on a song?
No, it's Kyle actually came up with the idea because it was this quote from if you've ever seen the episode of Futurama where Bender gets thrown out into space and he's just floating the whole episode, and eventually he runs into it's like a tiny little comet that lands on him, and there's like a whole like village of like people that live on him,
I think I remember this.
and they think that he's God, and he accidentally kills them all. And then he continues floating through space and runs into what is assumed to be God. Like in that episode, it's just like these like galaxies like lighting up and talking to Bender. And he runs into the galaxy and he's like, "Are you?" He runs into God and he asks him if he is God, and he's like, "I was God once." And then God
Hilarious.
says, "Yeah, I saw you were doing well before everybody died." It's just we our song titles are sometimes just pulled from shows that we like. You know, a lot of our stuff is actually there's a lot of song titles in reference. One of them is Rick and Morty. Is like we have a song called Plumbus. It's just like this.
Yes,
Yeah.
big fan.
And then Bear Witness is from I've never played Dark Souls, but that's from it's actually not Dark Souls. Oh my god. I'm not gonna be able to think of what the name of this game is. Oh well, it's not
Right.
Elder
It'll come
Scrolls
back to
either.
you.
Yeah. But
Well,
anyway.
that's cool. I mean, you're pulling from your other, adoration for other creative pursuits, through. And I
Hmm.
love Futurama. I love Rick and Morty. So those
Yeah.
are not lost on me. Do you have, um, do you have any kind of like philosophical approach to your life or your way of being?
I mean, it's interesting because as of late, I mean, I've been questioning that myself, to be honest with you. I I feel like I teeter on agnostic, you know, for the most part. I went to Sunday school every Wednesday, if that makes any sense. But
Love
that,
it.
you know, was every Wednesday night was confirmed, you know, and Catholic and everything like that, and first communion and all. Confirmation, I forget. It's been so long, all that stuff. But, you know, my family was after that never really super like churchy, never really went to church every Sunday or anything like that. So I was left to kind of develop my own thoughts on that, not really had any pressure from one way or another, which I am very grateful for. And I think ultimately, I don't know if we're talking about God, like, you know, I would consider myself agnostic. I can't prove it one way or another. It's just how I look at it. But as I've gotten older, there have been like weird coincidences that happen sometimes that I have to wonder like what is going on outside our realm of observation, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Because it does seem like there's some sort of connections to things in certain ways that just are curious. And I say that all because I had my dad passed away about 3 years ago or so now, and every now and then I'll just have I interpret things as signs sometimes, and it seems to happen more often when uh, well, when I pay close attention. I guess you know sometimes I see
Hmm.
it, sometimes I don't. But yeah, I would say overall agnostic, but I guess as far as like how I live my life, I just follow the golden rule, right? Treat others how you would want to be treated with respect, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. It's
Yeah.
yeah, when in doubt, I think you go back to the simple ways of being. It's hard to be myself, being raised in a Christian situation as well, and being ultimately very confused by it long
Hmm.
term because
Yeah.
it really and I was
Yeah. Right.
why people go, oh, I'm just gonna sign up for that, and
Yeah.
I like being there on Sundays, and it's like cool, and the more you allow yourself to be a part of a club, whatever kind of club that is, the more I think that more of an easefulness can arise. What in almost any of these situations, because there's a certain amount of like, no, 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 this is the crew, and like we all agree on the basics of this thing. But for me, it was never. Yeah, I'm definitely more in your camp of agnostic. I lean towards something over nothing.
I agree. Yeah. It feels that there's something going on, but I just don't know. I don't want to put uh, a name on it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, the labeling part of it and the being very sure of the labeling part of it super turns me off. Like, it makes me go, "Okay." Like, I
Yeah.
understand you have to label to talk about certain things, but,
Yeah.
man, when it gets to, like, "No, no, no, I'm really sure that this is the definite, like, the only the way, and me and my little group of people, we definitely have the answer." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay." I start to go, like, "I can't we're not
Yeah.
gonna have a proper conversation anymore, I don't think," but that's part of my disposition, I guess.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. Having that assurance in something that large is uh, concerning isn't the word I want to use, but yeah, I
Well,
don't know. It's hard to have confidence in something like that, I suppose. I don't know.
it is concerning to me. I will say that it's concerning, and I will say that, and I don't
Hmm.
think I know that people don't mean it to be this way, but I ultimately have found it to be a bit narcissistic. And
Absolutely.
these are good people that mean well,
Yeah.
that kinda get a taste of power. No, 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 because our group believes it, it's it's right, and this is the thing, and then they can't be like, you can't enter into like clear conversations with these people because they're closed off. They're like very clear that their way is the best way or whatever, and so
Yeah.
it's difficult.
It's hard to have an open conversation like that with somebody whose end goal is to just convert you to their idea, if that makes sense, instead of just having a discussion about what our ideas are, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think remaining open and like I kind of what you're pointing at too in some ways is like the older I've gotten, the more I've recognized I don't really know much of it. I mean, like I kind of the younger you caught me or to ask me questions, I'd been more sure of myself earlier
Hmm.
on. No, I'm pretty sure this is the way it works. And
Yeah.
I would have given you a more solid answer. These days, I'm like, depends. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't be
Yeah.
and seeing.
Two things can be true at once as well.
Yeah, paradox is a real thing.
Yeah.
I also just starting to see the ways in which the ways in which that I use information, knowledge to be one up, on in what doesn't mean what is not necessarily a malicious thing, a malicious act. It's just that I've it's a subtle quality that seeps in that because I don't feel the ground beneath my feet always, I cling to something and then there's that. That's the way that I associate with something that feels like it raises my vibration or my ability to to have some authority to say something. Like for example, I could be like, "Oh, like, look, Alex, I've been doing artist relations for 20 years and
Right.
I know better than you. And so just listen to me. Let me tell you how it works." Right?
Right.
And in some circles, people might shut up and listen to me for a few minutes until they realize I'm full of hot air, and they're like, "Oh, that guy doesn't really know what he's talking about." Like, anyway, next.
Right.
So that's the part where I feel like, I have clung to those things, and when I start to see how I have and still continue to do in little ways that type of thing, I'm like, it makes me even more suspect of all, like, not try not to be suspect in a bad way, but a suspect of everyone, and like, oh yeah, of
Right.
course you kind of cling to the thing. Just like you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna play guitar. Like
Yeah.
genuinely. Like I don't a lot of us don't that end up playing guitar and being creative. I don't know what else to do. So this
Yeah.
seems to work out for me. I'm gonna do it,
Yeah.
Now
No,
I know better.
absolutely. I'm following you 100%. It's always best to have a what expression? Take everything with a grain of salt, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
actually.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that
there's a another side to that, or like another what is it? It's like, yeah, like so somebody says something, negative that you maybe don't agree with. I love I can't remember who told me this or where I actually picked it up originally, but if you get critical feedback, let's put it that way, make it personal. If you get critical feedback and and the initial response is like, that's wrong, like I'm not like that. That's not who I am. Don't tell me that. Like, a defensiveness actually points at something. Number one. Number two, it's our job to like go, what about that could be true? Like, I disregard most of this, but what about what they're experiencing and they're bringing to light could be true? And then
yeah.
in the same thing that, because we take it, that's like taking it with a grain of salt. Like, I don't really believe all that, but like there could be some truth that could be a grain of truth in there. And then
Mhm.
like the more maybe difficult version of that is when people give you compliments. When you're like, "Oh, Alex, you're the best, dude. Like, I've never seen anybody better." And you're like, "Oh, God, I mean, like, thanks, man. I mean, of course. I mean, I've always thought that about me, but I'm glad you think that about me too." Like, that would be
Mhm.
we jump on the roller coaster of the compliment, even
Yeah.
even if not like outwardly, there's an inward thing we want to jump on that thing, right? Like we might be bashful, in the moment, but that's another opportunity for us to stop and go, I'm gonna disregard most of that, but I wonder if there's a grain of truth in what they're saying, like
Yeah.
from their perspective and that thing. And if we can take that part, then
Yeah.
that could be a really interesting, way of being, because it's like, it's kind of your, like the agnostic stance. It's like, I can't really prove or deny
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that I'm great, that's the
Right.
beauty is in the eye of the beholder, like you think I'm great, great. I kind of think
Exactly.
I'm great sometimes,
Exactly.
depending on the context.
And that kind of is how I feel about myself too. It's like, yeah,
Is
you
it?
know, sometimes maybe, sometimes not, but I appreciate that you think that way. So yeah, I find it. I'm trying to. Sometimes it's with compliments. Depends. It's kind of hard to sometimes take compliments. Sometimes it depends. Like if I did, like after a show, if I feel like I didn't perform very well and people are telling me I did well, I'm not going to be rude and tell them, "Oh man, no, I sucked." You know, I'll tell them thank you and everything, and I appreciate it. But in my head, I'm just like, you know, I really did kind of biff this one tonight, but I guess people thought it sounded good, you know, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
What's that they say? People will forget what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I
yeah,
think that applies to the live performance thing too, because if
true,
they feel your communication, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like in
yeah,
fact, it's almost better that it's not perfect because it lets them in
yeah,
and going, oh, Alex
true,
is human. That's wonderful. Like I could maybe someday achieve something that he has achieved.
right. No,
You
I
know,
hear you. Yeah, it brings that human element into it for sure. Makes
Mm,
the live show a little bit. Yeah, it kind of does make the live show a little bit more special if you see, you know, like it's a different performance than every other night, you know.
that's right. That's right.
But
So give me a little insight. Can you walk me through a little bit of your songwriting process? Like, where do your ideas usually begin? Is it something that you start with and Kyle helps you with, or do you guys kind of take turns with that stuff? Is it a jam session? Do you guys trade like files, or do you hang out a lot in person to come up with the thing? What is the recipe?
yeah, it's usually I'll come up with some sort of starter idea, usually a riff. Sometimes it's a melody or a solo or something. But oftentimes lately, I'll do that and post them on Instagram just for fun, like 15 seconds of a riff, and then I'll come back to them later and like scroll through them when I'm with Kyle and be like, "Hey, which one of these should we turn into a song?" And then we pick one and then work on it from there. Other times I'll just have like a whole minute and a half of music like ready to go and send it on over because he lives about an hour away from me. So I will just email it to him in our Google Drive and show him what I've been working on. And he might have notes, but most of the time we just kind of continue on from there. And yeah, I'll write a riff and try to make a song around that sometimes, which is always fun because you never know where that's going to go. That a lot of times I'll try to make variations of parts of like my riffs kind of have a lot of parts to them sometimes. So I'll just take like individual parts of them and make those a longer section for like a different part of the song to kind of expand on it. And layers are a big thing for us too, because we'll have rhythm guitar parts, obviously, and lead guitar parts, but then there's also going to be a lot of synthesizer stuff, different drum layers. Like, you know, we have 808 drums sometimes and actual, well, we program the actual drums, if that makes sense. You know what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But anywho, that is pretty much how we start our songs. And then once we get them all wrapped up, we send them off to be mixed by a guy named Nick Riggs. He lives in Ohio and he works together with Joel Wanasek from URM Academy. And they mix and master our stuff as of late. And that's been a great relationship as well. But yeah, Kyle and I do the majority of, you know, getting everything finished, you know, before it's sent off to be mixed. We
And
do all
how
the
do you
tracking
know?
ourselves.
How do you know
What's
when
that?
it's finished?
Yeah, right. That's never finished.
How do you know?
It's only abandoned, Chris. It's never finished.
Even when it's done, you're like, okay, I guess we're just gonna leave this one alone. Does that mean it's time to send it to mixing and mastering? And it's like,
Yeah, it's
I
like there's
guess.
that's what the universe is telling us. Yeah. But it's hard to say when a song is done. There is sometimes I put a number on it, I'll be honest. I'm just like, oh, okay, we're at 4 minutes. Let's put an ending on this one, you know, wrap it up. But oftentimes I'll structure things and kind of have a little bit of a formula. Like I do like to have maybe an intro riff, maybe a verse, and then do a chorus, and then maybe go back to the intro riff, but only play it once instead of twice, and then go to the verse, but only play it once. You know what I mean? And then like speed the second half of the song up a little bit, get to the chorus a little quicker, and then get to a bridge, and then get to a breakdown, and then a solo, and then repeat the chorus, and then do the intro again, and then oh, the song's done. I don't know. You know,
Mhm.
structure. I will definitely take just structure ideas like that, and usually wraps things up in a nice little bow for me. But
That's cool.
yeah, I do love bands that go off for like 7 to 10 minutes, but I like to keep things right in the 3 to 4 minute mark myself. I don't know why.
I feel that too. I mean, there are some bands that are really good at keeping your attention for longer than that. But when I'm writing, I was working on a song with my writing partner Don, and we've been working on a bunch of new songs since our album released last year. But the one of the things is that it's easy to like copy and paste, kind of like and make a song kind of longer, but like
Yeah.
but it's like to keep the listener's attention is a whole nother thing, right? So like if it's
hmm
just that simple same structure, there's a point
hmm
where it's really quickly in the beginning, it's like, oh, I can't even tell what part of the song I'm in because it's like the same amount of times in each one of these things, and there's not like any
Yeah.
novelty to it. And
That's
that's the part where I start to go, okay, we're starting to actually write a song now that when the novelty is being introduced and there's like
yeah.
more variation.
Yes.
That's for me anyway.
Yeah, and to your point where you're copying and pasting things, I will try my best to, if I ever copy and paste a part that's like a verse to a chorus, like I'll finish writing a section, I'll be like, all right, time to go back to the verse and the chorus. Copy, paste. Make sure, I'll try to make sure that at least some of those drum fills are different, or at least there's an extra, maybe a layer on top of this, like maybe an ambient guitar layer in the background for the second chorus, or maybe there's halftime drums for the second half of this chorus, instead of just being like a one-to-one recreation of what happened earlier in the song.
That's cool.
Mainly
Smart.
because just trying to keep like you said, the listener's attention is, I mean, with instrumental music, it's like kind of hard.
Yeah.
Singers are usually what people want to listen to. So
Yeah, but then you have to bring in, usually the guitar is the thing that is bringing you in your style of music. It's like a lead guitar melody or something that you're doing. If it's not, heavy rhythms, with intermittent solos or something like that, but establishing the themes. And it's interesting. That's something that like the term the head from jazz, like you brought up earlier, like it's interesting because I think that still is that format in a weird way is still really relevant, especially in prog music,
yeah,
because you deviate so much from the original like riff that you introduce in the beginning. Like you'll have like an intro riff that just gets you to the main riff. And now
yeah,
you're on the main riff that's going to alternate with another riff, but then you
yeah,
don't alternate it in the same way. Matter of fact, you throw a C or a D in there, and then
yeah,
eventually that melody, that head comes back around. You're like, you took me home now.
yeah.
So in some ways, like what you're doing and a lot of other people, that are maybe in this kind of similar genre are still maybe drawing more from jazz than they even fully recognize.
Very true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Bringing it back around after a whole bunch of variations to make it more cohesive. Yeah, that like sandwiching, like a riff sandwich almost.
Yeah. It's interesting too, like, and the bands that hold my attention, well, it's hard to say that that's the thing, the variable, but like, for an example, like a band like Tool does it in such an
Yes.
interesting way. They do it in a very subtle way a lot of times where you're like, "No, I've heard this riff." Like, "No, you have to listen to it again.
You don't
The one is not in the same place anymore, friend." And they
yeah,
took this little section out, and it's 13/8, it's not the 8/8 that you thought, or 8/4 or 4/4 that you thought it was in the beginning, and the variation is just so subtle. And I kinda really, love that little bit of diversity. I mean, Meshuggah is great at too, like a lot of bands that we
that's
probably
the
look at. It's
I was
like
going to mention, of course, Meshuggah. Yeah, the Tool and Meshuggah kind of, because of that aspect, have always reminded me of one another.
yeah, yeah. And it's such a, I remember when it got announced that Meshuggah got to open for Tool there was a short stint, and it was like I was such a big fan of, yeah, it was like Tool recognized Meshuggah and put them on, the opening spot for, I don't know how long of a tour it was, but it was such a moment where I was like, okay, it's like the universe does like, because in some ways,
Yeah.
just as a young person going, man, nobody gets Meshuggah. And to be fair, I mean, I got into Meshuggah because of a Swedish exchange student in 94, 93,
Okay.
like, and I was like, it wasn't, I would have never, I'm not saying never, but it would have been another decade before I probably found that band. But because this kid showed up at our high school, and was like, "You guys love Pantera?" We're like, "Yeah, Pantera is the best band of all time." And he's like,
Right.
"Yeah, they're okay for being really simple." And I was like, are you gonna? Do you want to get beat up, like kid? Like what do you know? He's like, no, just listen to this. And he put it. He gave me the cassette, of Destroy It, Race and Prove. And we put it, and we were driving in my
Man,
little Rabbit in high school, and he's like, put this in. And we were listening, and I was like, it was so like this. How I imagined, like, there's that story of when they say that, when Columbus and his ships showed up to the Americas, that like the native people didn't know, might have not been Columbus because I don't think he was the first guy, but like, when the
right.
first ships were showing up from Europe,
Yeah,
and the native peoples hadn't seen those type of boats, hadn't seen, a white man like that or whatever, that it was
right.
kind of like, it was like
Shocking.
like so shocking that like you're not even sure what's, it's like if aliens showed up now and they didn't look anything like what we imagined them to be.
Right.
It's like such a shock. It was such a shock to mine and my friend's system, but on the first listen we were like, they're not even in time, they're not even doing it right. Like
Yeah.
I literally thought that
Yeah.
Meshuggah was bad because it
Mhm.
didn't land in the same spot.
Y-
and and he like left the cassette, was like, yeah, you'll get it later. And I was like,
You'll understand. Yeah, you'll get it when you're older.
like, yeah, and then it was like another, I don't know,
I guess you
month
guys
or
weren't ready for that yet.
that's
Yeah.
exactly it. It's the Back to the Future thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like your kids are gonna love it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like it was the funny thing. I was
Have you
a
ever
month.
seen that guy since? Are you sure he wasn't from the future? Have you seen that guy since?
Yeah, no, I know he's real. I know. Well,
Okay.
at least like, that's a good question. But funny enough, like it was probably a month or so later. I would burned through all my Pantera stuff, and that cassette was in my car, and I'm by myself, and I put it back in and started cruising, and I was like, "Is this actually good? This might be good." And
Yeah.
like, and then like, I let it play, and by like the third or fourth song, I was like, shit, I need to take this over to my buddy's house. We need to listen to this. We need to smoke a joint. Like I'm gonna find out. Like I'm gonna find out for real. So,
We
and it was like
we
that
have
was
to
the moment where I was like,
it's the
oh
scientific process. We have to
yeah,
smoke a joint and figure this out.
that was exactly it. So I had to do the rigorous study. I had to put it to the test, and polyrhythms won. They just won.
Man, yeah. I'll get you every
So
time.
they sure will. What was I gonna ask you? Technical, like your gear. I mean, you're obviously a
Sure.
Kiesel artist, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of that is how you and I have gotten to know each other through the last few years. But I'd love to know a little bit about your gear, and maybe if you could take us through, like, I'd love for you to start with a guitar pick because that's part of our
Okay.
little theme on this podcast. So if you could
Yeah.
tell us like what you're playing now, like what are the guitar picks that you can't, that you use all the time, assuming there is one, and if you could give us a little bit of history on that too, just like what did you start off? Do you remember anything about your first guitar picks and kind of how you got to play what you're playing now?
Right now, I'm kind of going between like these three different ones. Like I've got a whole mess of picks over here, but three main ones, right? I use this one live. It's the Swiss picks.
Cool.
It's a Jazz 3. Was it say 1.8 millimeter? It's a really thick pick, and it's got these little holes on it that look like Swiss cheese. And yeah, these guys are great. I think Rusty Cooley is endorsed by these guys.
Definitely.
Those are great. And then I'm also using. I can't find any more of these. I have one of these, but I really like them. It came in a pack of like tabs that I got. Sheet Happens. It's like a Jazz 3 XL.
Can I
It's
see it?
not.
Can you shut up?
I think that's what it is. Anyway, it doesn't say on it.
But yeah, it does look like a Jazz 3 XL, or it could be a
It's not.
Flow.
Well, I think I have some flows right here.
Oh yeah, so no, you're right. You're right. That
Yeah.
is a Jazz 3 XL. It's a
And
Tortex.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't find these anywhere, at least not in my town, but I like them a lot. I've got just two of them sitting there. And then I've also got these Stone Age, they're like, I forget exactly what they're made out of, but it's Stone Age makes these stone picks. I think it's agate.
Agate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. And they're really cool too. They have an interesting sound to them. They're really like a lot of attack, really bright sounding. And recently, yeah, I've just been experimenting with using those those three different picks really for just different, mainly for feel. Like I do notice a difference in sound, but I just like the feel of all three of those picks.
And do you remember anything about your early days? Like when you first started learning guitar, was there what was handed to you, or do you remember what you were using back then?
Not really. I think it was just these probably Fender picks or something that came with my first guitar ever was like a little starter pack guitar that I got for Christmas from my parents. And I think the picks that came with that were just like a variety pack of these. I don't know what they said on them. I don't think for some reason Fender is coming to mind. You know, those like turquoise isn't the right word, tortoiseshell looking picks.
Tortoiseshell.
Yeah, and had some of those, and then I never really was like too concerned with what kind of pick I used until I started playing metal, which was like probably 2 years into playing guitar, trying to get into some Metallica songs and doing gallops and stuff. And that's when somebody showed me a Jazz 3. I had the Eric Johnson Jazz 3s, the red ones. And then since then, I've been using that size, pretty much Jazz 3 size and other variants of that. Went to do I have one here? The Petrucci John? Yeah. Because I use these for quite
Shield.
some time.
That's cool.
Yeah, used those for a long time. This one is beat up, and can't remember how long ago I found Swiss picks, but been using those for like probably 4 or 5 years now.
Nice.
But it was pretty quick when I switched over to Jazz 3.
It's hard, man. Once you go to Jazz 3, it's hard to leave that realm, especially if you're looking for precision. And I remember when my friend Zane years and years ago, I had been playing just Dunlop Tortex Green, like standards for forever. And I think it was because of Dimebag. Like I saw Dimebag using them. I was like, who needs anything other than that? That
why would I even try to find anything else?
Yeah, he's the greatest. So it was kind of that thing. But my buddy Zane was like, there are other things, and he's like, here, try this for the week. Take this home, and then
give it a shot.
Yeah, report back to me on Monday, after the weekend. And it's like, all right. And then, after I acclimated to it, going back to a regular pick felt so weird. I was like, this is so strange. There was so much more precision and this, getting used to playing with the stiffness and the thickness is a whole thing too, right?
Yeah, because there's no flexibility whatsoever. It's just there. Like it's just gonna go right through the string. It's not gonna bend whatsoever. Yeah, it's a game changer, Jazz 3. When did that come out? When was that pick introduced to like the world?
Actually, I want to say it was the 80s. I'm going to get corrected if somebody knows in the comments. Please correct us. But I working at Dunlop with Jimmy and the gang. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
There literally was a Jazz 1 and a Jazz 2 and a Jazz 3, right?
That makes. I didn't even. Of course, there was.
Yeah, no, early, but the Jazz 2 and the original Jazz, I don't think it was called a Jazz 1. I think it was just called Jazz. They were just smaller picks that didn't have the point, essentially. And the 3 is the one where they got to the point.
Okay.
And they started, variating from there. But I want to say the early nylon Jazz 3s were somewhere mid-early 80s, and I can't remember who it was that wanted it. But it was I could have that wrong, but it's somewhere in there, and it's just been like an explosion ever since. And internally there's like a little cult of Jazz 3 players. It's like once you're in that cult, in that group, you might not leave ever. You're kind of stuck forever.
Yeah, pretty much.
Suicide Pact.
Yeah.
But now there's so many variations and so many brands are doing their own version of it and putting their own bevels on it and using their own material and all that. It's a wonder that the original nylon and even the Tortex to follow it are even still being used because there's so many. But the material has proven that it's like really good and that it's worthwhile. Then you get people like I think it might have been Eric Johnson. I'm trying to think of who it was. That this is also my memory going, but I know that somebody along the way, when Dunlop was asked to make the red nylon picks in black, and so they go, oh yeah, sure, like we can put some color in there, and so they worked on a recipe, came up with something that worked, and they sent it out to that person. It might have been Eric Johnson, and they're like, oh, this is like a different kind of pick. And like, no, it's the same mold. It's the same mold. He's like, nah, but it's stiffer, and it's not as even though the red one was thick, so it got nicknamed the Stiffo. And so like if you get a black nylon versus a red nylon, some people will never use them. They'll never notice. They'll never even like care. But it depends on where your sensitivity is, where your nuance is, and how far you dig in.
Yeah. The Eric Johnson ones are red though, aren't they? Like
they are.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. But
that's what I think. I think they might have made it for him, and he was like, "No, I don't. I thought I wanted a black one, but it's like too stiff or whatever. I think that was
Gotcha. Yeah, I was wondering what the difference between those and the regular red ones were. I don't know, but
just a bit of colorant, and I think they have, I don't know what the actual material is, but they put a now I think they do it on purpose to put a stiffener in there. They recognize that part of the colorant helps to stiffen the thing, and there's a massive science behind that whole thing, and I would say it's kind of a tribal science because they tried some things out and they like some things worked, and then they got the feet, and it's like immediately, it's like anything. You put a product out and everybody's like, cool, man, this really works. What'd be cool? What'd be great is if I could get it in a different color, if I could get it in a slightly larger size or a slightly smaller size. And then you get those feedback from the great players of the time.
yeah.
And you go to try to cure that, and it sends you down a rabbit hole, and you're like, when we make it black, it's not the same thing, right? When we make it yellow, it's slightly different also. And before
Man.
you know it, you're like, dang, man, like I didn't mean to make 10, 15 versions of the same thing, but I did, just trying to make different colors for different sizes for different people.
Yeah, just happy accidents there.
Essentially, yeah. Look, let's talk about something that's really cool too. That after you guys kind of blew up with I Was God Once and Money So Big, you got like a message from a really cool hip hop artist, and you ended up doing some work with him that is yet to be released yet. But can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, Ludacris messaged me out of the blue. I mean, it was his producer at first, but eventually he followed me and messaged me and said we got to work. And so what ended up happening was his producer, his name is Gerald Keys. He found me after that Money So Big video went viral and messaged me and asked. He just said he liked what he saw on my page and asked me if I'd be interested in helping out with the new Ludacris project, and that he was the head of production for it. And so his message was like in my requests. I had to go in there, and like I totally didn't see his message for a month or two.
Ooh,
And so yeah,
you're lucky, man.
so
You caught it before it was like
I know,
they forgot
I
about
know.
it.
So got in there and replied to him, and he asked me to like send him a couple riff ideas. He was just saying like, imagine the stadium, their lighters up in the air and the lights are off and the guitar comes in and then the beat comes in and then everything goes off and it's all based on the guitar. And in my head, I'm just like, okay, so he wants like some stadium rock, like Journey or like Def Leppard, or just like stuff where, you can fill a whole stadium with just like the sound of one lead guitar. You know what I mean? So I made a couple simple riffs and sent them off to him, and he sent me back a screenshot of Ludacris saying that he fucking loves them and good job and everything. And
Yeah.
he said and so he sent me that message and let me know. And then a couple days later, Ludacris followed me and messaged me and got to talking, and they had those tracks for maybe a year or so. And then I got a message out of the blue from Ludacris asking if I could come and go down to Atlanta. That was last year, and record, because they had turned like 3 of my riffs into actual songs and had a beat made and everything around them. And then they also wanted me to play guitar on a couple other tracks, like maybe 6 or 7 other tracks that they had already written, and just had me play some extra layers on top of. So went down and got a crazy experience. Those guys are so nice, just best people ever. Like totally went out of their way for me, accommodated me, got me down there and put me up in a hotel and everything and all that good stuff. And afterwards, a couple months go by and he had a show in Des Moines, and he got me and Kyle backstage and got to hang out and talk for a little bit. And crazy experience. So I think next year is when that music is supposed to come out, but I don't really have any more information.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on being recognized by one of the dopest rappers of our generation, and just like personalities too, like Luda's
Yeah.
been out and around. He's part of the social cachet, of our times anyway. And to see somebody so entrenched in hip hop and be so successful in it, and for the team and for him to recognize somebody that's very clearly not doing what he's doing, you know,
Yeah.
and not like, you know, even though like we talked in the beginning, like there's obvious crossover, spillover influence
Yeah.
between what you do and, you know, what they're like I love that so much. It makes me happy. And I love
Yeah.
seeing the underdog get their day, you know? And it's
Yeah,
like,
man.
you know, started at the bottom. Now Alex is here.
Yeah, dude. It was a crazy experience. Just unforgettable. Just one of those once in a lifetime experiences, you know?
Mm.
So that's also kind of lit a fire under me. So trying to hopefully get more opportunities like that once this comes out. And I think I talked to you about moving to Portland potentially
That's still a
for a
thing? That might happen?
yeah not later this year. This year's almost over. About a year from now.
Okay.
I think that's probably the tentative plan to try and pursue music a little bit harder because just the area I'm in doesn't have a whole lot of stuff going on. But I mean, yeah, that's been crazy experience over the past couple years, man.
Cool. Well, I'm really excited to see where it all goes in the future for you, man. I'm excited to ask you about what maybe you've been listening to more recently, like in the last year or two, or if there's something like right now that's burning a hole in your ear. Like what are you vibing on, and what are you looking to for your kind of daily, maybe not musical inspiration, but just like life inspiration?
Well, let me think here. Well, you know what? For life inspiration, it's been every day now. I have been waking up early and going to the gym, and then getting breakfast, and then just having a routine and everything like that. And I try and get started on. I'm trying to make every day like all just music focused, like doing lessons, making videos, everything like that. I'll make a checklist of what I want to get done the night beforehand, as far as music is concerned, and videos and stuff, and then I'll just cross things off my list as my day goes by. So I guess I'm kind of list oriented these days. I guess trying to get things like crossed off my list of breaking it down to like what can I do in this amount of time today, and then if I can get all that done, I had a good day. But as far as what music I've been listening to that's been really inspiring, I've been listening to Bill Murray is one I've been listening to a ton.
His music?
Dude, so it's not Bill Murray the actor. It's a band called Bill Murray.
Because
Yeah,
Bill Murray does have a band. You know that, right?
no, I didn't.
Yeah, no,
What?
and yeah, no, he has a band, and he's like the vocalist of the band. I don't think he might play like harmonica or
Damn.
piano or something like that. So, but
Well,
what's his name?
that's great.
Dave. Let me look it up. What's his name?
Wow,
Dave is
I
in
didn't
the
even
band.
know.
I'm screwing this up right now. There's this really funny. It's the guy who says, "Hey, it's Dave from before." And he tells some funny ass stories like tacos were invented in 1979 by a guy named Pedro, and he tells this like totally off the wall story, and he's like friends with Pantera, and he's like friends with Bill Murray, and uh why can't I think of it? My internet is not serving me right now for some reason. His band has been opening up for Bill Murray, and then he hit me up because he's a fan of the V220, the Kiesel Carvin V220 shape, right? He had seen that in the
Okay.
past, and in fact, what's his name over at Pussifer, Matt Mitchell they were hanging out, and he was like, "Oh, I love your guitars." He's like, "Oh, you should talk to Chrys because." Like that he's the one that made these guitars for me. And then he's like, "Oh man, will you make me a V220?" And I'm like, "Dude, hell yeah!" And now he's in Bill Murray's band. But I'm sorry, that
Wow.
was a side quest. There is a band
Well,
called Bill Murray.
I'll look into that. Oh my God. Okay,
I didn't
so
know that
that's
there
funny.
was a band.
So they spell it differently. It's Bilmuri, I think. But
Okay, okay.
their singer used to play guitar in the band Attack Attack, if you're familiar with
I
their
remember
stuff.
them. Yeah.
But it's very eclectic stuff. It's like metalcore, but it's mixed with electronic, mixed with a little country, mixed with some hip hop stuff. So I've been listening to a lot of his stuff. His videos are hilarious too. Like he's a pretty funny guy. He's got just like crazy costumes on and is, I don't know, pulling pranks in his videos and stuff. It's fun. But I'll have to check out Bill Murray's actual band. That's hilarious, dude. I think Bill Murray's family, some of them live in my area because I've heard that people see Bill Murray in my area from time to time, but I've never seen him.
Whoa,
Yeah, kind of interesting. But
dude,
yeah,
I
Bill
can't wait
Murray,
till
check
you
out the
run
band.
into him on the street and you have photos with Bill Murray in your neighborhood. I can't wait till that happens.
One of these days. One of these days.
So,
So,
so
but
we need to listen to
that
Bill Murray with a Murri. That's what we're gonna
Yeah.
check out, and it's associated with Attack. Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
Then we've also got, let's see, I got to think here. Just the other day, I went and saw in Des Moines, went to go see the Zenith Passage and Fallujah and Entheos and all those guys.
Well, good
I
lineup.
met Scott Carstairs, introduced myself to him, and we chatted it up a little bit, and he's a great dude. Those bands are killing it, like in the tech death kind of realm. This is the other like opposite spectrum of that, but this girl I found on Instagram, Emma Harner, I think. She's an acoustic guitar player who she's like a folk. She describes her music as folk prog and is really good. It's really, really good. I bet you
Sing also?
you would probably like it a lot. Yes, she does.
She a redhead?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I follow her. Yeah, I couldn't remember her name, but she's great. Yeah.
She's so good.
Yeah, really good. Really refreshing too. Like there's been a couple of interesting crossover like acts or not say acts, but like artists like that trying to think of the one that she's not a guitarist though, is she? She's no, it's the microtonal girl. It is. You know, have you seen this one?
Feel like I've seen those videos where does she have a microtonal guitar?
Yeah, it's like acoustic microtonal, and she's like almost like started. I caught my attention because she was doing all these kind of like experiments, you know, with like her trying to get her voice to follow, you know, the microtonal qualities, and now she's written all these cool songs that are like incredible. And I can't think of her now. I have to get on Instagram and look her up. But that's cool that you bring up Emma because she was doing really cool things and writing cool lyrics and singing.
Yeah,
really neat too.
I really like her music. Yeah, she's been following her for like past couple months, and great songwriter and instrumentalist. Like she's got it all. Yeah.
You see the one she did that. She had like one kind of breakout or one viral song that I think that maybe that's how we all ended up following her. But then she did that same song with another vocalist, and they did some harmonies with it. Did you happen to see that one?
I'll have to check it out. I don't know which one was her big one because I just kind of found it all at the same time.
Okay. I can't, and I can't remember the name of it, but you'll know what I mean. There's one session on her Instagram where she's harmonizing, or she's doing a duet kind of with on her song, and it's just extra. Like the extra voice just elevates the whole thing, and I'm like, man, I wish I could sing better. Like I just every time I hear somebody do a good job with singing, I'm like,
dude, yeah,
I wish I was in that club.
I hear you. I had to practice singing for college, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm okay at it. Like I'll sing in the car, but like I don't have the confidence to sing on a track. This other guy, Hudson Freeman, I just had to look up his name. Have you seen this video right here?
Yeah, it looks familiar. Oh no, I'm thinking of Marcin or whatever. No, that's Hudson.
Found that dude like 2 days ago, and he's all over my For You page now. But his song, If You Know Me, I think is the name of the song. It's got this really cool, apparently I like folk music. I didn't realize. It's got this really cool, like drop C nylon guitar riff going on where he's got like a bend going on. I don't know. John Mayer just covered the riff like on his story the other day or something. And so people are freaking out about that. Like everybody's covering this riff, but he's great. It seems like a cool dude too.
Man, I guess that's the next step is you got to get John Mayer to cover Money So Big.
But yeah,
your version of Money So Big or the riff in, you know, I Was God Once. That's like when you know you've made it is when John Mayer is
if John Mayer's playing your riff. Yeah.
He seems like a pretty good guy. I've never met John personally. I've met a few people around him, and I saw him one of the one time I really saw him perform live that wasn't his show was he did a thing with Dave Chappelle in San Francisco, and where Chappelle was Chappelle's, you know, comedy.
Oh, because they're friends. Yeah,
they're homies. Yeah, I mean they have that classic
play the fight riff, John.
Yeah, play the fight. Oh man, it's been memed so many times too, like other people's music, and like it's forever hilarious to me. And then, but the other what before it was the fight riff, wasn't it? Questlove doing drums or something, and it was like the flip side between white people jumping up,
yeah, exactly,
losing their mind when they hear guitar.
Let's see how they react to the drums.
Yeah. No, it was a cool thing, and it was the first time I really realized, like I associated John with Dave, but like I didn't really associate John having such a great sense of humor ultimately until I saw them on stage and kind of doing their thing live. Then I was like, oh shit, John's pretty fucking funny, like he might be a good hang, actually.
There's this one clip of John with Kanye West talking about his watch or something like that, and like how much better it is than Kanye's watch that he's wearing or whatever. Or, like I don't know. He seems like a good guy. I don't know. He seems funny.
Yeah, that sounds like actually a pretty good moment there. I wouldn't be mad
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Let me ask you, what have you figured out, like in your journey? Like what do you kind of know? And if you were telling yourself, like if you could write or kind of give a little spiel to yourself of 10 years ago, because there's a lot of people out there that are in that spot. What would you tell them at this point if they were looking to do something similar?
Let me think. If I was talking to myself 10 years ago, I would say, well, it's hard to say because I'm lucky that I ended up in a pretty fortunate spot where I am now. But if I was to try and improve things, I guess being a little bit more consistent with everything would definitely help anybody, I think, as far like that's one thing I've experienced in life in general is like the more consistent you are with something, the more progress you're going to make with it. So that's what I've been trying to hold myself accountable for as of these last couple months is actually getting on and making a video every single day, making multiple videos every single day and uploading every single day. And that's been helping me quite a bit. But consistency is like the biggest thing as far as making progress, not just in music, but in life in general, showing up every day for the people that you care about and also for yourself to work on yourself as a person and work on your relationships with your loved ones but yeah having consistency and having what helps with having to have consistency with yourself is to have a little bit of a roadmap, like some goals. Whether it's just like I was saying, make a little checklist of what you can get done the next day, every night, or whatever, or if you have long-term goals, but having something set for yourself, I suppose, has been super helpful for me to make progress as a musician and I think as a person. Over the years, last decade, I've developed more confidence in myself as well. That's for sure. Which is something that I think I struggled with as a teenager and young adult. I mean, 30 now, but back when I was 20, wasn't nearly as. You know what helped? I think is working in retail, being able to talk to people.
Really?
To
Okay.
be honest with you,
Interesting. Yeah.
because I worked in retail for pretty much that whole decade, from 20 to 30. And now I'm pretty much just teaching guitar lessons, which I'm lucky. But that also, I wouldn't be able to give lessons nearly as well if I wasn't able to talk to people, because I was a pretty shy kid, kind of pretty reserved, would spend hours in my room just playing guitar, not really talking to anybody, for days and months at a time as far I got to go to school, sure, but after that it's time to play guitar and work on some music and stuff. But as an adult, just building confidence in myself has really helped me progress as a person and build better relationships with people and have a better outlook on life in general and who I am. Trying to still figure out, everybody's trying to still figure life out, but taking it one day at a time, those are the two big things, I guess. Consistency and confidence, right?
That's good, man. I like that. Those are your points that come up for you. I can echo those sentiments in that it almost doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're doing it often and learning from your process, right? And you always get the shift, but the consistency part of it is absolutely key. If you
Hmm.
have any kind of goal around it, daily, every other day, regular intervals of however you're going to do it, if it's 3 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and then learning. And this day and age now, where we find ourselves in 2025 and beyond, more so than ever, it is so important to learn some social skills, to learn how to talk to people and see them and look in their eyes and answer them, because if you haven't noticed, there's a bit of an epidemic of young people kind of not be able to look up from the screen for very long and
Yeah.
actually interact in a way, because all of their thing is here. And I notice that, as much as she's a good kid, my niece, she's gonna be 17 already. I can't believe that, but
Yeah.
she's like I joke, but I mean, because she can do stuff when she has to, but like we were driving somewhere one day and I was like, hey, just call them and find out what the time is, She's like, on the phone, like I'm like, yeah, just use your voice, just call. She's like, Uncle, no, I don't want to. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you come on, it's not a big, it's just a random person. Like they don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Just call them. Somebody's gonna answer, and you're gonna say, "Hey, what time are you open till? What time are you?" And she was just like, it was this like super low pressure environment. It was
Yeah.
still kind of an anxiety building thing, and I was like, "Here, we'll do it together." I put it on speakerphone. I was like,
Dude, I
"I'll
get it.
give you an example. This is how it's done." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I like it better when you do it." And I'm like, "All right, well, anyway, moving
Yeah.
on."
No, that skills like that are absolutely, like you said, important to have. But I get the anxiety behind it for sure. When I started working at Guitar Center, answering the phone on my own, I was like, all right, it's my job to represent Guitar Center now as soon as I pick up this phone, huh? Okay, well, we'll see how this goes. But yeah, being able to just hold a conversation with anybody, is very, very, like, what's the word? Invaluable, right? Invaluable skill to have.
Yeah, it's you can't put a price tag on it, so to speak, right? Because it's so integral
Yeah.
to actually having some semblance of success in the world for most people, most places. Some people get away with it, but it's the absolute minority get away without having to go in that direction or stay at home and stay kind of in your cocoon. But there's a lot of things on the other side of it too. It's like just some might even say that our ability to communicate and relate to the world at large is our number one asset, our number one thing, because our self-worth, our sense of meaning in the world a lot of times are derived from our relationships and from how we bounce our ideas off of other people, how they get reflected back, and the feedback that we get about who we even think we are. And so it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that the information you get is always accurate. Like we were talking about earlier, like, I wonder what about this could be true, you know?
Yeah.
So and you
Yeah.
get the opportunity to ask that question when you interface with people, right? So like I can imagine you being at Guitar Center and like a customer comes in, oh, you guys sold me this and it's wrong and like da 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 da, and they're all heated, and you get to find out what about what they're saying. They may be overblowing it, but what about what they're saying is true? And you look
Yes.
and you investigate it and you're like, actually, somebody didn't tell them about this. They're
Yeah.
right, even though they're a little overblown. Let's make it right. Like, and you learn how to fix that and solve that problem, right? Just those little things, they go a long way, because when we get down the road, like it's really what you have, what you do have in life is relationship. You may end
Yeah.
up with nice guitars, but they're not gonna last you, and you're not gonna die with them. You don't get to keep them. But you know what we think we get to die with are the imprints of our relationship and our abilities to be in the world. I think, and we don't even know. I mean, I don't know if we get to keep
Well,
any of that either, but
even if you don't, what's left in the world after you go away is your impression that you left on other people, not what stuff you have. So, what was I going to say? Yeah, as far as how people interpret you, it's interesting that somebody, I don't know where I heard this, but I think about it every now and then. There's like millions of different versions of you that exist in this world because everybody interprets you their own way. No two people look at you the same way.
mm,
So everybody's version of you is a little bit different. So, it's just an interesting thing that I think is kind of fun to think about sometimes. Like everybody's existing in like millions of different ways right now because we're always being thought of differently by somebody else, if that makes sense.
that is a really interesting consideration, that now that you bring it up, man. I think, yeah, because like, no, and obviously no one gets the empirical view that we get of ourselves, and even ourselves, we're a bit diluted from season to season in life, because like
Mm-hmm.
now the 30-year-old Alex gets to look back at the 20-year-old, Alex, and go, you know, I'm glad that
Yeah.
he stuck it through. I would have had him be a little more consistent, do a little more,
Yeah.
this and that. But, and so your view changes based on the latest, culmination of experiences and stuff. But there are people that you met when you were 20 who still hold that version of you that they met that day or that week or month, in their mind as who you are. And now you're still kind of that person in some ways, but a lot has changed, right? And you probably don't actually act in the same ways or respond in the same ways with all the things that you've been through since. So I can really resonate with that. That's an interesting thing to ponder, man, because
Yeah. And the only thing you can do about it is control who you are currently so that people have a better impression of you when they meet you. So, yeah.
some days, man, I'm wilding out. I'm not the greatest person. I know that. So
Yeah, I get it. I mean, relatable. Everybody's
yeah.
got their bad days.
Yeah, well, I think it's inevitable to some degree in modern. I mean, in probably every era throughout all time. But like, we're just inundated. There's such a time crunch. It's such a linear feeling of like, got to get it done in the linear, time frame in the box that we put you in. It's for better or for worse. In some ways, like we learn through the schedule and in a time crunch that we need to be consistent. For example, we need to show up and be in this way. But the other side of it is that we might be losing some of the way. I mean, we'll never get what humanity had a couple hundred years ago or prior. But some would argue that like since the invention of time-based being, which is not that old. The clock is not as old as we would like it. We kind of think it is.
True. And that's a concept to think about.
Yeah. So it's like nowadays, like you have to like you run into this like when you go like to Hawaii. People will say, oh, you got to be patient. It's island time. When you get here, like things aren't. You might say, oh yeah, let's meet at 2:00 at the beach or the thing. And it in island time. That could be 3 or 4. That could be, it's really kind of nebulous because like they're not floating. They're not, witnessing every second of the clock, and their being isn't tied to that. And you can imagine that our ancestors, had that experience too. They're like, yeah, the sun. Okay, cool. I'm going to learn that. I'm going to get it done. But it wasn't like I've got to get it done by 3:30.
Right.
Because I've got another appointment because I got it.
Yeah.
It wasn't
I'm going to need that on my desk by
Yeah, I need those TPS reports,
yeah.
I'm gonna need you to come in on Saturday to finish. Yeah, no, there's a lot of things that we're in a kind of a rushed state, it feels like to some degree. And so it's easy for things to pile up. It's easy for the cortisol to get spiked real high and for us to, kind of feel a little less than our best selves, I guess. Is kind of what the thought is.
Man, that band Via Nova.
Dude, thank you for saying something. Right?
They have a line talking about cortisol. You just reminded me. But
which song was that? Is that on?
I got that cortisol buzzing. Something.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up.
You shout out to Raul, Alex, and the whole crew. That's wow, like such a cool band, such a cool album. One of my top albums of the year for sure.
I saw you posting about it, and I also when I went to Seattle, Brandon Parker, he was showing me them as well, and was like, you know what, I think somebody else was showing me this, and I'm like, maybe I should check these guys out. So I got back home and checked out the album, hit it, and it's great. Yeah.
All the videos are great too. If you haven't checked out the videos,
I've followed them on. Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
This year's been good for music, I think. I mean, historically I would go through and, listen to a lot more music, and I would, rank stuff, and I haven't done that in years now, but like I'm thankful to look back on the year and be like, oh, dude, the new Fallujah came out. And I'm still, if I put that back on, I'm like, oh, Scott Carstairs, why are you so good? Why are you so good? And why are you a good human being on top of it? And why, when you play live, are you fucking phenomenal? Why? Like, I know why to some degree, but like, it's funny because I remember when maybe 2 albums ago, I guess, when Fallujah dropped. I can't think of the name of the album, but I felt like everybody in my social feed was just like Fallujah. Oh, bro, the new Fallujah. And I even helped them out through Jim Dunlop when I was working there, and I was like, yeah, cool band, but it didn't like land on me. I wasn't like, oh yeah, that's my other band now. And it's been like over the last couple, I think the last album hit me. I was like, that's okay, I think I finally get what people are talking about. And then this latest album, I was like, damn it, And
Mhm.
I had previously seen Scott at the Kiesel Connect 2 years ago. He performed to tracks out in the broad daylight, just like and just seeing how monsterly consistent and like
Mhm.
very accurate that he was. I was like, okay, I was already like thought he was a good dude and a great player, but when you kind of see it like right there, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, you're like one of the guys that really can do it. Like I'm so impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great. He was
That's
super
cool.
nice meeting him the other day. Yeah.
Man, did you meet Justin McKinney too? Or did you already know him?
I didn't get to say hi to him, no.
Another good dude, incredible player.
I ran into a guy who knows you, Chris Shireman.
Oh right, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Starman, dude. Like, oh, it's hilarious. Yeah, he sent me a photo on Instagram. I totally forgot. Like he was like, I'm hanging out with your friend Alex, and I'm like, I wasn't busy doing something. I was like, what? And I didn't come back to that. Like, what? Did he come to the show? Is that how you guys met?
Yeah, we came to the show and we were all we were kind of all talking to Scott like kind of at the same time and kind of got to talking to one another and talked about you actually at some point and we were just like, yeah, we all know Chris and I was like, oh shit.
Bro, that's hilarious. It's small. It's a small community, a small world in the music business in a way.
Yeah, he lives in Des Moines and that's like 2.5 hours away from me.
Okay.
And
cool.
yeah, so we kind of just got to talking and then the next day we went out and got some burgers because I stayed in Des Moines so yeah, it was a good time.
Starman is a top-notch player, total frickin' nerd. You nerd, Chris. I know you're
Yeah.
watching. You're such a nerd, and I love it. He's a nerd. He's a nerd in all the best ways. He's a nerd about freaking being really strong and bodybuilding type stuff. He's really a nerd about guitar and at this point,
Yeah.
he's still a fresh player. Like I love that he like kind of has these boundaries. He's like, no, I play these well, he's got a newer guitar that somebody made for him, but he had these older guitars and he has these uh the amplifiers. I'm trying to think of, it's not Rocktron, it's I think it's a Lee Jackson tube amps or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but he's got some killer gear from like the late 80s, early 90s.
He was showing me some pictures of his gear. I couldn't, off the top of my head, I can't think of Lee Jackson sounds familiar, but he has so many amps. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was telling me that he's going to be traveling soon and he's going to be recording some stuff for the first time using just like DI, and he's like nervous about it and everything. And I'm like, I'm surprised you haven't like done that yet, man. Like based on everything that he's told me he's worked on.
He's funny. Yeah, he's a really good dude. So I met him funny enough, I met him through like a Devin Townsend show. Like
Okay.
in the very early, it must have been, I think it was 2010. Yeah. So Devin and I had started like being in contact probably like early 2009. And then, and I'd done a couple things for him through Ampeg, Mackie, and Alvarez, made him acoustic guitar and a baritone and stuff like that. And in the early stage, it was like right as he was finishing the album Ghost and the Devin Townsend project. And
Yeah,
that's when I, here's a guitar to help finish that album, and he's like, oh,
really.
cool. And
That's like
yeah,
one
and
of the first ones I heard from him.
really,
Didn't
that's
Ghost
even
come
cooler.
out? Ghost is the one. It's kind of softer.
Super mellow. Yeah.
And then right after that was the one with the "We All Rip Off Meshuggah" song.
Technically right before it. Yeah. But yes, at the
Okay.
same, right around the same time, Deconstruction and then
Yeah,
Ghost.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was, I just done enough work with it. I was living in Seattle, Devin's in Vancouver, BC, and Devin had driven down to meet me and like check out guitars, and we kind of hit it off, and I took him to Thai food, and we laughed a lot about fart jokes and stuff, and it's like, oh, it was this cool moment. And then he was finishing up that album. He's like, hey, I'd like to do like I like the practice, like a one-off acoustic event,
Yeah.
Is there any place close to you that I could like book something that's away from my home? I'll go, I can drive down for it. I'm like, actually, there's this awesome little coffee shop that has a stage that we do like open mic nights and stuff at. And he was like, yeah, sounds good. How many people can fit in there? I go, like almost none, but like, yeah, like probably 40 or 50 or something. I don't know. And he's like, well, let's book it, but let's like announce it just a couple days before, so that it's not too overwhelming for the coffee shop. And I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. And my buddy Zane and I ended up opening up for him. We played some acoustic guitar, and then he just played some of this really mellow stuff. Well, he announced that, and Chris's son I believe his name is Zach too, as well, and great drummer. And he's a huge Devin Townsend fan, and like that announcement came like 2 days. Well, they booked last minute flights and flew out from Des Moines or whatever, and the whole family showed up, and they were out there, and they ended up like talking to me, and we ended up becoming friends like that day, and like
Oh, wow.
we exchanged information. And then shortly after that, it was like maybe in the next year that Devin was like, hey, you know, we're going to do this celebration of the 4 Devin Townsend Project albums being finished: Key, Addicted, Deconstruction, and Ghost. We're going to do it in London, and when you're invited, will you play second guitar on the Ghost night? And I said, I will try. I will do my best. Yeah, for you, I will. The answer is yes, but I just
Yeah.
hoping I don't fuck it up. He's like, I'm gonna drive down. Devin drove down again and stayed with me for 2 nights and sat in front of my laptop and made all these videos. He's like, okay, song 1, there's only these 2 riffs. It's like, and it's in this tuning, and this is the thing. You want to repeat it here, and then you'll recognize it. And then he like made these little files, little easy notes where he would show me the tuning, show me the thing, and I had all the songs for Ghost, on my laptop from Devin himself giving me these little guitar
Hell
lessons.
yeah.
And then I know it was in the middle. I was actually quitting that gig, the Ampeg and Mackie gig, to go to work for EMG Pickups. So I was moving back to California as I was learning the Ghost album for this London show, right?
Jesus.
And when I told Chrys Shireman, I was like, hey man, I'm going to London to play guitar like for Devin Townsend. I mean, it's not a metal thing, but it's kind of like
You're
the
still
ultimate
playing
bucket
guitar.
list. Yeah,
Yeah.
still like ultimate. I'm in the band, man. And
Yeah.
like he was like, bro, well, we're coming too. So he booked flights and he bought the tickets, and I go, and he's like, do you need somebody to guitar tech for you? And I was like, that's so weird, but yeah, totally. He's like, so like he was my guitar tech in London.
Wow.
For the Devin Townsend like finale. Like it was 4 nights in a row. They did 1 album per night. In that order. Key was the first night, Addicted, Deconstruction, and then Ghost. And Devin had all his kind of favorite friends that could make it fly out and guest on different albums or different songs and stuff that they maybe like. Our mutual friend Mark Cimino, he was a big help in writing and recording the Addicted album. So like he was on that night, and then Annika was out there, Dirk was out there doing drums, and we just it was like this weird big happy family. We lived off of a tour bus for like a better part of a week, and I get to be part of the finale. It was pretty wild. Shireman was there so it's like that's the backdrop to like me and
Okay.
Chrys, and how
Okay.
we initially kind of became friends.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy. Yeah, that's cool that he was just like down to hop on that and was like, all right, let's get this done.
Yeah, super cool. And like also, I've never honestly, I mean, I don't think I've ever been so scared as to have no distortion, super long reverb,
Yeah.
and in-ears in a band setting with Devin Townsend where he can hear what I'm doing and how, oh my God,
Yeah,
are you
man.
kidding me? Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, would I do it again? If he asked me, I would try. But do I want to? Kind of not really. Like, cause it just the level,
Pressure.
the pressure and the likelihood of like hitting one wrong note and it like lasting for too long in his
Good
ears
point.
just makes me I'm cringing now for that future event.
I'm sure that I don't know Devin personally, but based on the interviews I've seen with him, he would probably laugh so fucking hard if there was just a wrong note just like constantly being held out.
Yeah, I got through it pretty good. He did when we finished, thankfully, he hit me up afterwards and he's like, "Hey, would you re-record this one song because it's, not quite in time. I don't want to have to try to fix it." I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
So he, I redid that one so he could layer that into the final DVD and film, and audio and stuff. So
Cool, man.
super wild. Anyway,
Yeah.
enough about me.
That's badass.
Hey, Alex, dude, thank you so much for hanging out with me for a couple hours and telling me some stories
Yeah, man.
and letting us know like a little bit more about you and helping me,
Yeah.
fire the podcast off again, man. It's been great.
I appreciate you having me on, man. This was fun. Yeah, I'm glad to be part of this, dude. This is crazy. You've had some insane guests on here, like fucking Steve Vai, John Petrucci, like Paul Gilbert, all these crazy players that I've been listening to since I was a kid. So this is an honor.
Dude, well, you're now part of the club, so
Oh, man,
welcome to the club.
the pressure's on now.
Yeah, now you just got to go out and do some something big. You should probably join David Lee Roth's band. That's what you should probably.
I was
do
thinking
next.
that'd be a good idea. That's probably a good
Yeah.
call. Yeah,
Before he retires, just be the last guy that replaces Eddie Van Halen for him. Okay,
Man,
just do that.
you got his number?
Sure. Yeah, I'll text you here in a moment and get
right.
you guys hooked up.
Sounds like a plan, dude.
Hey, man, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Yeah, dude. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks,
See ya.
Alex.
Yeah, take care.